Hi guys, we are going to be making a to-do list, a very basic version of it. So like there are no fancy features or anything. It just has three main requirements: that the user should be able to add a task, they should be able to mark them as completed, and they should be able to view their current tasks. And also this to-do list is a console based one, so like there is no fancy GUI or anything. So let's get started. I already went ahead and made a folder on my computer for this project. So now we're just going to add files to it. Now first we are going to add a header file, which is basically where you declare all your functions that are going to be present in the whole project. It just helps with collaboration, but it's a small project, but it's good to bring this into practice. So now let's move on to make the three very basic functions. Now we need to determine what parameters do these functions need in order to uh, do what they are supposed to do. So for that we need to now think of the data structure that we'll be using to simulate our to-do list. There are a lot of options that we could use, but as this is a very basic version of a to-do list, we're going to go ahead and use vectors. Okay, so now that we have our vectors library, we need to think of what would be in that vector thingy. So obviously it's we're going to be using a string because we need to store tasks. So we also need to include the string library, and to do that we should also just add a string. So now that we're done with this, we can go ahead and put our parameters that we'll be needing. Now that you see, this is giving us some errors. So what basically happens is that we are supposed to put std colon colon and then std colon colon string, because all of these are in the std namespace. So to avoid this repetition, we can just use using namespace std, and so we won't have to put all of this. Now for mark task as well, we need just this. For view task as well, we would be needing this, but as we do not want to make any changes to our to-do list in the view task, so we are going to declare our vectors of strings as constant, and we're going to declare our to-do list as constant so that no changes can be made inside the function by mistake even. Okay, so we're pretty much halfway done with the to-do list header file. We would be adding other declarations if we see the need for them as we proceed in the program. Now, let's add a new text file. Now what do we do here? We define or we define and write the functions that we had declared in our header file. I'm really bad at this. I do not put comments. even though I should. Also, one thing, the fact that we have this function of viewing the current tasks, that means or that implies that once a user has marked as a task is completed, they won't be able to see it again. So, in adding tasks, we are going to put new tasks in the list, obviously. So, for that, we first need to take the user input, the task that they want to add. So now that we're done with our add tasks function, now we'll move on to the marking task as complete. Now with this, we have a lot of approaches that we could use. We could ask the user to put in the specific task that they want to mark as complete, like typing the whole task out. But with that, things get a bit difficult in terms of case sensitivity and spelling issues, spelling errors. So instead of asking them to type the whole task out, we can ask them to give us the task number that they want to mark as complete. So for that, it's more convenient if they can see the task that they have listed. For that, we need to first show them the task, and for that we'll use the view tasks function. Okay, so to make things a bit more linear, let's just first make the view task functions and then go back to the mark tasks function. So for this, obviously, we have to go over the whole vector and display each of the tasks that we have. And that's pretty much it for this one. Now let's go back to the marking task as complete. Now once they can see the view task, once they can view the task, next we want to ask them for their input. Okay, so now that we're done with the very basic functionality of all these functions, we now have to begin to think of corner cases. One of them could be that the to-do list is empty and the user wants to see their task, or maybe they want to mark them as completed. So for that, we need to check for empty lists. Uh, to make the code more modular, what we're going to do is we're going to declare another function of checking whether the list is empty. Another corner case could be that maybe the user puts in a task number that is not valid. For example, they put in 0, or maybe they put in a negative number or something. So for that, or maybe they could even put in a number that is bigger than the vector size. For that, but it could also be that they continuously keep on giving us a wrong task number. So what we could do is we could declare a variable, a bool variable, and put this in a while loop that while the input is not valid, it keeps on asking the user for a valid input. Now that we're done with this, I do not I cannot think of any other corner case that we might get into. So now we can move on to our main function. Oh, and also we would be needing a menu function for the user to select which option do they want to use. Like, do they want to add task, mark task is completed, or view task? So we should add another function. So now we need to determine what this function would be returning. Would it be returning a string, the maybe the input that the user has given us in terms of they've written that they want to add a task, or maybe we could just choose an integer. With string, again, the problem would be case sensitivity and checking for spelling errors. But with an integer, we could our work would become very easy. And we're done with the menu function as well. So now let's go to the main function. We need to include our other files as well. Now that we have done this, we obviously want that the user can do this multiple times. If we go with just the code that we have right now, the user would just be able to do one thing, and then the program will terminate. So to make it run constantly, we will put this in a while true loop. Also, let's add another one. What if the user wants to just end the program, right? Because it's a console based program, there is no way to end it if it is in a while loop continuously. One thing that we need to mm, look out for is that as this is a while true loop, this could easily go into an infinite loop on our terminal if we do not take care of certain things. So as you can see, we have declared our choice variable as an integer. So for example, if the user does not give an integer, they type some character or some string, this program would go into an infinite loop because cin did not get what it wanted. So to prevent that, we are going to put some precautionary conditions here. So this is basically to clear the bad input that we got and to discard the bad input that we got. So I suppose that we're pretty much done here. Now let's run the program. So as the main function has to return an integer in theory, so let's put a 0 here. Okay, so the problem here is, as you can see, that it's not waiting for my input, it's not waiting for me to type a new task. That is because if you look here and enter the option number, it's already gone on to the next line, even though it should not have. Let's see if I already did that. I would have done that in the menu, even though I shouldn't have. That's a mistake. So what happens is, in the get line, uh, in the add task, we're using the get line function, or the get line function. So it reads this new line and it considers that to be our user input, but that is not our user input. So removing that, and also ensuring another precautionary measure, what we'll do is, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this helped you. I'm very sleepy right now. So yeah, tata, bye bye.